Hello guys, this is Paul McWhorter with ExtremePreppers.com, and back home I had heard rumors of this crazy American kid living by himself in the bush in Africa, and I thought that it would be worth it to try to find him. So I am here in the middle of nowhere looking for this crazy Mzungu that's living by himself in the middle of Africa. So let's see if we can find him. You're Moses?
Yes, Moses.
Moses, do you know Ashton? Do you know where I can find Ashton?
Yes.
Okay, can you take me? Okay.
Ashton. Hello.
Hello.
Hi.
Hey there.
Are you Ashton?
Yes, I am.
Okay, I'm Paul. Good to meet you.
Nice to meet you, Paul.
Would you mind if I ask you a few questions?
Yes, please.
It's amazing what I've heard stories of, and I don't know what's true and what's not true, but I've heard stories of you. And if you don't mind, maybe we could make a short video and you could tell us a little bit about your life here.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay,
Great.
thank you.
Come on inside. So this is my home. This is my abode.
Oh, wow.
It's a grass roof and mud walls, but it's what I call home. And some interesting things about this place is it was built entirely of mud. You know, it's the bricks, as you can see behind me here, are mud. The mortar is mud, and so the materials we got from just right outside the house.
So everything is local.
Everything.
Okay, so tell us first of all, where are we? I know I drove a long way. Every few miles we'd stop and say, where is the crazy white man? And they say that way. Where is the crazy white man? He's that way. And so we drove and drove and drove. So where actually are we right now?
Right. This is a district called Kabramaito in Uganda. A district called Kabramaito, which is northwest of the closest major town is Soroti. And then this village is called Olumai. Olumai B. There's two Olumais. There's A and B. So this is Olumai B in Kabramaito.
Okay. So how far are we from Soroti by car?
By car, about an hour and a half to 2 hours, depending on the roads.
Okay. And that would be, so you would be like 2 hours from the nearest like ATM machine or even a simple thing like that.
Right.
Okay.
The closest walk-in grocery store is 2 hours away.
Okay. And by grocery store, I think that you have to say what that would
right.
be.
That's very limited.
That would be a small like shop that a man owns that you could buy a few supplies, like a little soap. You could buy some spices,
maybe bread.
Yes, some
maybe
bread.
milk.
Right.
Those types of things.
Something that would not be much bigger than this.
Right. Yeah. Definitely not even bigger than this room here.
Yeah.
Right
So.
now.
So we are in Soroti right now, and so that would be, I'm in Soroti, and that would be very, very primitive. But for you here, that would be the night on the town.
Right. That's where I go to get some civilization. Is what I would describe.
Okay.
Yes.
So so you have a home that's built of mud bricks that you built. Okay. I think one of the things that people, so tell me, how long have you been here? How long have you lived here?
I've been living here for right around 2 years, for a year and 10 months.
Okay, so this wasn't just to come and make it, not make it, or just barely make it. You are now here established where you could be here for the long term if that's what you decided to do.
Right, exactly, yes.
Okay, so tell us a little bit of what it's like to live here. Like, what does it cost you? What is your budget as far as living here and having the food that you need, the transport, the basic living cost of existing here? What would that be?
Existing here, the bare minimum you can do it on is around $30 a month. And so to have food, to have transportation, to have water, and to have all your basic needs, a small regimen of clothes and things like that for right around $30 a month, which is around 100,000 Uganda shillings.
Oh, wow. So I noticed that you help Moses here, and Moses is your helper.
Yes.
So would you say that you and Moses are living for under $50 a month?
Yes, definitely.
Okay.
Probably $30 a month.
Okay. Are you starving, or do you feel that you have good portions of food?
We have good portions, but not good nutrition.
Okay.
The amount of food we eat is enough, but the nutritional value is a little bit low.
So are you probably getting a lot of starch and not much protein?
Heavy starches and very little protein,
Okay.
exactly.
Is that because of budget, or is that just because of availability of food that it's hard to go and find protein?
Availability. There's hardly anything, to go and find something with sugar in it would be 2 hours away to Soroti.
Okay.
You can mix sugar in with your tea, but only so much sugar in your tea tastes good. And so things like sugar and then proteins. There's a little bit of meat, but most of it is pork, which is a very fatty meat, which you don't want to eat a lot of. And so yeah, availability is definitely the challenge out here.
Okay, so you could have all the foods you wanted, but the variety is fairly small.
Exactly.
How about fresh fruits and vegetables? Are those available?
Not readily. There's an abundant supply of onions and tomatoes, but those are what they classify those as produce. As far as green peppers, lettuce, cabbage, carrots, and any other type of vegetable that we might consider a vegetable as Americans, they're not available here.
Okay, okay, very good. So maybe you can show us a little bit more of how you live. And on the camera, make sure that you're zoomed out so you can be as close as possible for the audio, okay? And so you have a little bit of electricity, right?
Yes, I do.
So maybe you could show you have a solar
So
panel
this is
outside?
right, I have a solar panel right outside here. It's an 85-watt solar panel. And then I have a very basic solar system. So this is a battery, which is actually broken, unfortunately. So this battery is entirely useless, but this battery here is a small car battery. And so, not a car battery, a motorcycle battery. And so this battery came out of one of my motorcycles that it wasn't strong enough to start my bike anymore, so I use it here. And this battery is able to provide light for me throughout the night. It's not able to charge a cell phone or anything like that, but it can provide light.
Okay, so by leaving your panel in the sun, then in the evening you can have all the light that you want until you're ready to go to bed.
Exactly.
Okay, can you show your little light there?
Yeah, we have a few little light bulbs here. These are some light bulbs. There's a switch right behind you. Do you see that switch, Paul? Could you
Yes.
switch that on for us?
Okay, Austin, you want to get the switch here?
Shine on the switch there.
Okay, so we'll switch the switch.
Right, and so now there's a little light right here. So this is our kitchen
Get the
area.
light over
So this is
not over the window so you can see it. Yeah. Okay.
So this is our kitchen area. So this provides enough light for us to cook, wash dishes, and anything we need to do in the evening time at night.
Okay, so I don't want to waste your electricity, so I will turn the
Yes,
I will
thank
turn
you.
the light off. So you have nominal electricity. So you said that you cannot charge your cell phone and run your light. So how
Right.
do you keep your cell phone charged?
I charge my cell phone during the day the best that I can. When you're out of power and you have to trade off between light and a cell phone, you always choose light because light is a
Okay.
necessity, and communication isn't necessarily unless there's an emergency.
Okay.
And so
Do you normally have the cell phone working when you need it? I mean, are you able to kind of make that balance where you have the cell phone when you need it?
I do, yes, I am. I have a power bank which was given to me by some supporters in America, and that power bank is 15,000 milliamps or 15 amp hours, and it's actually stronger than the solar battery I have down here. And so when I'm around electricity, maybe in Soroti or in a town in a place that has plug-in electricity, I'm able to charge that up, charge that fully, and then that can charge my phone about 5 times.
Okay. Are you
throughout the
able
week.
to charge your power bank from the solar?
I am during the daytime only. If I leave it on the solar pan, if I leave it on there at night, it will drain all the electricity out of the battery and the lights, and everything else doesn't work.
Okay. So possibly things could be more abundant around here if you had one more solar panel and a new car battery. That might kind of be
a larger battery,
have,
exactly.
Yeah, have everything that you need at that point. Okay.
Yeah.
So on your cell phone, so you're living at under $50 a month for you and supporting one of the indigenous children around here. And it was a long way since we've seen a cell tower. Do you have a cell signal if you're just sitting here?
I do a little bit. So I have a cell phone right here, and right now I have 1 bar. You can see here. So I have 1 bar on my cell phone right now. What I've discovered, though, how to get a better signal on your cell phone is to go up. And so I've made some adjustments here to my house, or built some creative things around my house. I actually have on the center pole, which is a structural element to my house to support the roof, I've built a ladder so that if I ever am in need of a strong cell phone signal, I can actually climb right up. And if you see up in the top there, there's a small chair, a perch is what it's nicknamed, that I can go and sit on the perch and get a cell phone signal so that I can talk to family, friends.
Can you demonstrate that?
Yeah, yes, please, yeah. So it requires a little bit of athleticism, I guess, but it's not difficult to climb up for me, especially when you're the one who built it. Just climb right
I might have put a few more rungs. I'm an old man. I might have needed a few more rungs to get up. But you're young, and
it would be smart for me to put a few more rungs. I guess being a minimalist and not needing them, I just don't use them. So
did you get any more bars up there?
From here, I can pull out my cell phone, and I have 5 bars now. I have full service right now, as well as if I switch on a data connection, I have 3G data as well.
Oh wow!
From up here, so the
in the middle of nowhere, and
would
you've got
be,
3G.
Yep, I have 3G. I have a 3G signal right here. So now I can call. I can use data to get on Facebook. I'm able to talk with my family via Facebook Messenger or Viber, a few different of the apps that are available. So it's definitely a help to have an elevated place to be able to go and get on the cell phone.
Okay, so the story, if you want to come on down, the story that I'd heard at one point in the United States, I'd heard that you lived in a tree. Okay, so maybe that story came from people seeing you. Do you ever go in a tree to get a cell phone coverage? Is that maybe where the story came from?
I do. There's actually right outside. There's a ladder going right up into one of the trees. That before I had built my house, I would use this place right out here. So you can come right outside. As you can see right off in the distance here, there's a ladder leaning up against the tree. And when I wouldn't have close friends by, I would really spend a lot of time on the phone with my family, and so I would spend a lot of time in the tree.
Okay, so people would see you in the tree, and maybe people thought that you lived in the tree.
Right, exactly.
But it doesn't look like you have a perch there. It looks like maybe you just sit on that limb.
Right, exactly. You just climb right up, and then you can stand, sit, wherever's comfortable is where I can talk on the phone from there.
Okay, so it's kind of amazing that you're living on under $50 a month, but you do have communication. You do have a phone. Right. It looks like you even have a smartphone. Mm-hmm. So how does that work? I mean, does AT&T, or I mean, how does phone service work here?
Right. I was able to unlock a phone. So typically a phone from America comes locked, is how they describe it. It's able to use the American SIM cards specifically and only. Limited to the American SIM cards. Whereas when you come here, you might switch your phone on and put a SIM card in, but it's not able to access the networks because your phone's locked. So I was able to unlock my phone, and now just using a local SIM card that I buy for 500 shillings for about 15 cents, I have a SIM card that I put into my phone, and that's able to give me a data connection as well as a network.
Okay, so you have kind of excellent communication as far as a good phone and good service, so that's good. You have the bare necessity on electricity, you have light, and so that's good. And then how about your water situation? Do you have running water and that sort of thing?
No running water. Running water, it's available about 3 kilometers away from here. Back as you drove into here, you passed through a little center called Okuku. That's the next village over, and it's along a main road. And there's a water line that runs through that center. So there is tap water available about 3 kilometers away. Unfortunately, to have that water connected to my home, it was going to cost around $3,000. And that's pretty far outside of $30 a month budgeting. And so that wasn't quite possible for me.
Okay, the one thing I noticed though was that there was a line of people at the borehole. So do you have to wait in line then for water?
Right. To get water for free from the borehole, you have to stand in line. Typically, from the shortest the line will be is about 30 minutes. The longest it can be is up to 2 or 3 or even 4 hours when there's a shortage of water in the village here.
Okay, so if the line is long, do you wait in line or do you go to the next borehole? Do you drive around looking for a short line?
Right. You can go to the next borehole and you might find that line's even longer. And you can try another borehole and you find that line's just as long. So now you've walked or ridden a motorcycle or ridden a bicycle as far as 2 hours away from your home, spending 2 hours transporting yourself there, and then you're going to have to wait an hour or 2 hours to fetch water and then coming all the way back home. anywhere from 30 minutes to 2 hours.
Okay.
away.
So I was saying driving, your transport is a scooter here. That's how you get around.
Right, I have a little dirt bike or a little motorcycle.
Okay.
Yeah.
And that's looks like it's very affordable, probably very good on fuel.
Right.
Once you own that, it's consistent with maintaining that transportationage for $30 to $50.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
So how about a toilet? What are you behind a bush or are you better than that?
I do have a toilet. We can come right over this way and see it. I have a small toilet. It's a pit latrine is what they call it here, and so it's a 7-foot deep hole in the ground that's 3 feet by 6 feet wide, 3 feet in length. And so actually where I'm standing right now, underneath here is a hole. And so under here, down here, there's a few logs. I don't know if you can see this on the camera, but there's a few trees that are spanning this hole that I was able to build, keep the soil up on top of. And then inside the little shack here, the outhouse, is the toilet. So I was able to build a concrete using some bricks and a concrete slab. I was able to build up into a small seatable position, which is a little bit more comfortable than the typical way of just squatting down and doing your business as you would need it.
Yeah, by African standards, this is actually very nice.
Right, this is very nice.
You have to readjust that. If you're in America, you look at this and think, but if you come between America and here, I've seen much, much, much worse than this. And so this would be, by African standards, very comfortable for an American. Do you throw things in there after you go, or how do you...
Typically, to deal with the smell, because it can get pretty smelly, as down into the hole, and then I throw some matches there. And so it's a little bit explosive, but it's able to burn. Most of those gases that smell quite unpleasant are actually quite flammable. And so by burning those, you can cauterize, if you will, the top layer of the feces and contain the smell within it.
Okay,
and so,
because I noticed when I was looking at the facility, I noticed no odor, to where usually in the villages they're very, very unpleasant. So you're using a little fire to
exactly
to keep things okay. So no running water. You have to get the water in cans.
Jerry cans.
And so can you bring 10 gallons at a time or 5 gallons at a time? How much can you bring at a time?
Right. Typically on my motorcycle, I can bring 2 jerry cans, which is 2 5-gallon jugs, or 4 5-gallon jugs. And so with 2 5-gallon jugs, that's able to serve my needs for a small amount of time. I can survive on 2 jugs for a day. And when there's no water available, you can survive on no water at all. But to have my basic necessities met, to wash my dishes, to have at least decently clean clothes to wash in, to bathe, maybe not every day, but every other day, at least 2 jerry cans a day, which would be 2 5-gallon jugs or 10 gallons of water a day.
Okay. In the 2 years that you've been here, have you been able to maintain your health, or have you had bouts with malaria or typhoid or some of the tropical illnesses?
I have had a lot of bouts with the illnesses here. Malaria, typhoid, I think all of the above. Okay. Malaria, typhoid, every kind of parasite, worm you can imagine, I have been infected with, probably in large part because of the water. And so to adjust that, I've actually been able to get some filtered water from the nearby town of Soroti. So that's the only water I ingest. I drink only filtered water.
Okay.
Whereas the water I bathe, wash clothes, and wash my dishes with is the local water from the
Have you thought about getting a water filter for your home so that you could just get the nearby water and then filter it? Or
I do have a filter for my home. Unfortunately, the water here is infected with a bacteria called Staphylococcus. You might be familiar with that. That's staph infection. And so I actually, if you look on my ankles, they're quite dirty right now, but I have a lot of scars all over my feet that were caused from mosquito bites that I would scratch, and you might get a drop of blood out of the mosquito bite, and then I would wash my legs at night, because you don't want to go to bed with dirty feet and make your sheets dirty, so I'd wash my feet every night. And I noticed as I was washing my legs when I was using the local water that I was getting these small wounds. Mosquito bites were becoming larger and larger and larger, and some got to the point that they were the size of a quarter of a festering wound when it started as just a mosquito bite. So I was really confused by how this was happening, and I was applying creams and all kinds of antibiotics trying to get it set right. And ultimately I realized when I was not washing my legs, my wounds wounds would heal. When I would wash my legs, they would become worse.
Okay, so it's not just drinking the water, just getting the contaminated water can
Right.
cause infection
Right.
through a wound.
So the filter system I have at home, I do have a filter here at home. I filter the water that I bathe with.
Okay.
So the water I use to bathe, I filter.
So if you get malaria or if you get typhoid, those make you sick enough that I think it would be hard to ride a motorcycle for water. So on days that you've struggled with that, has Moses helped with getting the water?
Yes.
Or how do you handle being really sick?
Yeah, when you're very sick, it's you just kind of you spend a lot of time in prayer, and you just really hope that the other people in the community might be able to help you and assist you in any way. If they hear that I'm really sick, that Ashton's really sick at his home, they might come by and drop off a small portion of food, or maybe a little bit of medicine that they had available, or left over from a previous treatment that they had done.
Okay. Well, and then you would be several hours away from, let's say, I don't want to say a modern hospital, but let's say a hospital that if you had appendicitis,
Right.
they would be able to operate, they would be able to nominally have, sterilized instruments,
Right.
that sort of thing. You would probably be 2 hours away from that.
Right, exactly. That's 2 hours away. There's a hospital called Bethesda Hospital in Soroti, which is about 2 hours away. When riding at a moderate speed on a motorcycle. Now you find when you're very sick, the bouncing of the roads is very uncomfortable and not pleasant at all. So it's taken me 3 hours. One time I was sick with typhoid and malaria both at the same time, and it took me about 3.5 hours as a passenger on the back of the motorcycle.
So I guess that probably
Right
for
there.
you, it's important to not get behind the power curve. If it looks like an illness might be serious, you probably need to head for town
Exactly.
before you get so sick that you would not be able to
Exactly.
to move.
Yeah, every 1 to 2 months, to prevent illnesses, every 1 to 2 months, before I even feel sick, I actually do testing. So I do a complete blood count, or they do my counts in my blood to see if there's any infection or type of parasite that's active within my blood. And then I also test my stool as well as my urine. I do that on a monthly or bi-monthly basis, once a month or once every 2 months, to make sure I just try to keep a handle on to keep ahead of the curve.
Okay.
on any
So
of
to
the
keep
sicknesses.
clean, do you have a bucket, or what do you do as far as?
I have a shower.
Okay,
So come on
let's see.
over. We'll look at the shower. It's here in the background. So this is the shower right here, and it looks a little funky. This is basically just a wall for privacy, and so inside of there's a concrete slab, which we'll see in a minute. But
This looks a little fancy for a bachelor. I mean, if I look at everything you've got, it looks like that this is kind of fancy. How did you? Why such a nice shower compared to kind of everything else?
This was actually built quite recently, as my parents came out to visit
Ah.
me. I didn't want my mom to be bathing
So this
in
was
the
for
open.
your mom,
So this was
mainly.
for mom.
Okay.
I had to give mom some privacy so that she can do the things women need to do as they're showering.
Okay.
So how this works, you say shower, what does that mean? That can't be a shower. You don't have running water. I have some ways to create running water myself. So this is a jerry can. So this is the typical system of fetching water from the borehole. So you take this 3 kilometers away up to the village, under the borehole, you pump the water, fill it up with water. I take it home, I filter it. After filtering it, I pour it back into a jerry can like this, and then I have a special top for this jerry can that has holes in it. Why would you put holes in a can? Because this is how I shower. So I screw the top on. I will leave this typically in the sun for 3 to 4 hours to get it nice and warm, and then I put it into what I call a cradle. This is a little shower cradle that I've invented. And then from here, I now will get down, undress. For the sake of the video, I'm not going to be undressing, but I'll walk into the shower here. I don't know if you can see in here very well, but this is the shower, and so when I want to shower, I'll grab a hold of this rope, and I'll pull this down, and the water will begin flowing. Now from here, I'm showering. When I need to switch the water off because I'm soaping my body up or doing something like that, I'm able to turn the water off, finish scrubbing my hair, doing whatever I need to do. When it comes time to rinse again, I pull it back down and finish up my shower.
So I imagine water is precious, so you want to
Right, exactly.
get as clean as possible.
Some
and
people
not
think,
waste
why
any
would you
water.
ever pull it off? You should just let it run over you. Some people in America will even switch the water off as they're washing their hair or doing things like that. It's definitely advantageous to switch the water off when you're not rinsing.
Oh, wow.
Here.
Well, maybe we can go inside and we can
Yeah.
ask you a few more questions.
For sure.
I just try to think of all the different things people would want to know.
Right.
So was this house here when you got here? Was the house here, or did you build the house?
No, yeah, you can please see if you'd like a chair.
Is this for sitting?
Yes, this is a chair. These are some small backpacking chairs that fold up into
Okay.
a small container.
Actually, this is quite comfortable.
It is. These were something that my parents were able to bring as well about 2 months ago. Yeah.
Okay, so did you build this house, or was this house here when you got here?
I built this house. I didn't lay every brick myself, but all of the architectural design, the dimensions, the style of bricks, everything was designed by me.
Okay, and what would you be willing to share with us what the cost of the home was?
Yes, yeah. I was able to build this home for about $3,000 roughly, after putting on the grass roof, the tree branches, the mud, doing some finishing, the cost of the windows and the glass, and all in all, it totaled to about $3,000.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
And you said that was probably the white man's price for
Right, exactly. As I discovered after when I first moved here, that was something I was doing, and so as I've spent more time in the culture and things like that, the price of the bricks that I paid when I was building this home is much higher than the price that I'm hearing quoted to all the other locals.
So if you did this again and knowing a little more and a little more connected, what do you think the house would cost?
Between $1,500 and $2,000.
Okay.
Definitely not more than $2,000.
Oh, wow. Well, the thing that is amazing to me is that, I work with young people in America, and I mean, what you spend in a month, they will spend on one dinner, or I mean, they would spend that much for a nice lunch, and I think people would be shocked that you could actually live at $30 a month. Now, I would describe this as no frills, right? It's
definitely,
no frills, okay?
Definitely.
But as I'm here, it is cool. It is very, very hot summer day outside, and in here, it is really amazingly cool. And you're able to take a shower. You're able to have lights at night, and so what I would say is that this is more comfortable than what I would have imagined life would be at $30 to $50 a month. I mean,
Right.
it's no frills, but you've got your necessities taken care of.
Yeah.
So you've talked about the issues with health. Now that you've been here, are you able to stay healthy better? Are you getting things figured out where you're able to stay healthy?
Yes, I definitely am. I have a malaria test kit myself, so I'm able to test myself without even having to go 2 hours to the hospital. If I feel that I'm having an onset of malaria, a bout of malaria coming through, I'm able to test myself, and I keep the medicine that I would need to fight malaria and some general antibiotics. I keep them with me inside my home here.
Okay, so you have malaria medicines, you have antibiotics. Are there any other medicines that you keep? I mean, what is the go-to things? If you can only have a few things here, what do you have as far as medicine goes?
As my biggest, even above malaria, I like to keep triple antibiotic cream, or locally it's called MCG cream, and that's the only cream that I've been able to identify that's able to fight the staphylococcus infections.
Okay.
And so as a white person, I'm kind of seen as a foreigner, or a man who knows how to do a lot of things to the village. And so people will actually commonly come to me with wounds. Maybe they got a cut on their finger from a thorn as they were digging in their garden, and it has now swollen their finger and infected and started eating the flesh off of their entire finger. And so I've actually been able to treat several people just using this basic, triple antibiotic cream or Neosporin. What's so commonplace in America can save a person's hand or finger here in this village.
Okay, so you have some basic medicines that are helping to keep you healthy. You have transport, you have a system with water. As I look, it would seem to me that the simplest thing that could be done to improve your quality of life or more hours doing the things you need to be would be if you had local water, if you had like your own pump and borehole.
Right, exactly.
So even like a
hand pump, exactly.
life would be a lot easier. So how do you cook? What do you have, gas, or how do you cook?
I use a kerosene stove where it's if you can shine over inside the kitchen here. This is our kitchen area over on this part of the living room. I have a kerosene stove, as you can see right here. You can fill the bottom up with kerosene, and then it has the wicks that feed the kerosene up into the burner. And then if I'm out of kerosene, or if kerosene's not available, or I'm not able to bring it from Soroti or some of the nearby towns, this is what they call a sigardy.
Okay, so it looks like you've got your cooking down. That you use fuel, you use petrol, or you use charcoal. And for your cooking, it's like what do you think your expense is for your fuel and charcoal?
Fuel, they're really minimal. The charcoal I actually make myself using just tree limbs and trees that I've cut down and things like that. I make myself, so the charcoal has no cost at all. But then the kerosene, maybe $1 to $2 a month, if not even though.
Okay.
Less than $2 a month.
Yeah, and your little charcoal stove, I think I saw a program on those once. They're very ingenious in that there's insulation, so it sends
Right.
the heat.
Right.
And if you're chopping and hauling firewood, you want all of that energy to go into cooking and not
Exactly,
heating the
not
house
out.
up. So I've seen those that are very innovative. So it looks like you've got a lot of good things going here. Just the one thing that kind of strikes me is, you have a little bit of a limitation in your diet. You need more protein. My experience have been chickens are the easiest way to get protein because a chicken's this marvelous machine. Bugs go in one end, eggs come out the other.
Yeah.
Have you thought about chickens to try to allow yourself to have a little more protein in your diet?
Yeah, I have. I actually tried chickens back when I was living here in this home alone. So when Moses wasn't here, I was living here. I brought 6 chickens into the home. I bought them for around $2 or $3 each from the surrounding villagers. And as they were here at home, they were growing, they were feeding, they were eating. There's plenty of bugs around here, so they were eating all the bugs. But one thing that was happening was the villagers were actually stealing the chickens.
So how does that work? It's
And
like
so-
you're asleep and someone comes in and takes a chicken, or
Right.
how does this work?
Well, because I do need things that I can't keep here in my home, I might move out during the day or in the evening time to go and maybe see a friend or go get some fellowship or just doing the various errands that you have to run. As I would be out somewhere, somebody might see a chicken walking along the road, and everybody would know that that chicken is near Ashton's home, that's his chicken. But being a white person and just being seen as an endless money supply in some ways, people thought, oh, it's not gonna hurt him if I take this chicken.
It's
and
the
eat it
rich
tonight."
guy. He's got $30 a month.
Right.
So yeah. So they probably thought that Ashton would want them to have that chicken. Would be
Maybe so, yeah.
probably what they were thinking.
Yeah.
So in order to have chickens, you would have to kind of have a little bit more of a security situation.
Right,
So-
exactly.
So how does your safety work here? Given that even though you're living at a level of resources that would be below any American that I've ever heard of, still by local standards you're sort of viewed as being wealthy. How do you feel your situation is as far as safety goes?
I trust the Lord, I would say.
So there's an element of faith in
There,
this.
definitely. It murder or kidnapping wouldn't be a concern I have, but theft is a huge problem here. In fact, I would say every week or every 2 weeks, I'll be sitting in the living room here at night, and I'll hear somebody walk by right outside my front door. And there's no road that moves through or near my
There's
house.
no reason for them.
There's no reason for somebody to be in here except to be looking for something I could have left out that they can take and go off with. Or maybe I left the front door unlocked or something like that. There's actually been several situations where I'll be inside and somebody will come and shake the doors to try to pull or pry them open as I'm inside.
Is that frightening?
For me, it's not.
It would scare me.
When Moses is here alone, it definitely scares him, and so I spend a lot of time praying. When I'm out, maybe in another village or doing something else, and Moses is here alone, I spend a lot of time praying for safety and protection of the home and of him, because it is frightening. There was a situation one time where there were maybe 2 thieves or several, and somebody was shaking the front door and the back door at the same time. essentially trapping Moses inside this home. And so that's a bit scary, and definitely something that needs to be taken precautionary. So I made some adjustments, tried to strengthen the doors and do some things to make the house a little bit more secure. But one concern is still that it's a grass roof. So if somebody was upset with you, if you've ever seen grass burn, one match can turn this roof into quite an inferno. And so
yeah, so you would not want to have enemies, because you could imagine barring the door from the outside and then
exactly.
a torch on the roof.
Exactly.
So you want to maintain good
Exactly.
community
You have to have
relations.
You have to have a good relationship with the community, which is very difficult when you're seen as an endless supply of money in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
But as people get to know you, as people see what is Ashton getting out of helping a boy like Moses, there's nothing I can get out of it except for time, a friend and time to pour in and disciple him. And so people are, in the long term, people are able to see he's here to help us. Whereas in the short term, which is typically the way a Ugandan or a villager would think, is what can I do to survive today? Well, he left a piece of metal or a jerry can or something outside that I can take and I can go and sell it for maybe 15 cents or 20 cents in local currency. And so they'd rather help themselves instead of helping the community, as I'm trying to do here.
Have you ever been really robbed?
Yeah, I have. One time I was out of town. I was in Soroti. There was the team that had come from America not people I knew, but they came from the same area I was in. And so as I met them, I really connected with them, and I spent about 10 days with them, showing them around, trying to give them a few of the things they would, help them see what they would want to do in Soroti. And as I was coming back, I was planning to return the next day. I got a phone call that the night before my house had been cleaned, is the word I use. Barring
Cleaned and not in a good way.
Right, not in a good way. Left here were a few pieces of wood, a few timbers, a few empty suitcases, but just about everything. My mattress was still here, but just about everything of mine. The solar panel, the battery, any type of electronics, scrap paper was left lying around, but everything was destroyed or stolen in that time. Thankfully, I was able to recover a lot of those things because I have an iPhone that I keep as a backup phone around. And so you won't find another iPhone for about 100 miles in any direction from where I am right here. So when someone shows up at a cell phone store wanting to sell or trade in their iPhone for another phone, it's pretty clear that the iPhone probably came from the white man who was just robbed.
So it probably took you a short amount of time to figure out what.
Right.
So how was that dealt with? Did the community shun the thief, or did they think, well, he stole from you, so it's okay? I mean, how did that play out as far as you getting robbed?
I think God grew me in grace during that time. When you're robbed and I got back to my home and I saw the house was just empty. The windows were broken open and there was nothing left. And I thought, your initial reaction is anger, and I want to punish that man, and I want to get back at him, and he needs to pay for this. And so the typical Ugandan way to respond to a theft is not gracious at all. It's, in fact, they'll usually kill a thief. Like in the larger towns, whenever they see even a pickpocket stealing something, when he's caught, he'll be beaten to death, typically on the spot, or sometimes burned or poisoned on the spot without a trial, without acknowledging that it was really him or anything like that. And so as I came back, found the house empty, God just really worked in me to extend grace to the man who had robbed me, who was actually a friend of mine. And so it hurt a lot, emotionally and internally, that the man who I thought was my close friend, who I was helping in so many ways, would rob me. But at the same time, I kind of had to step in to protect him. So instead of taking him to the police like you would typically do, we kept him within his home with several village leaders around him so that there would not be an incident where he would be killed. They described to me that, Ashton, if you try to take this man up to the police station, he's not going to make it to the police station, which is about 6 kilometers away. He won't make it there alive. The village will just show up, and just using mob justice, they'll just murder him on the spot. And so, not wanting that to happen, wanting this man to come to a saving knowledge of Jesus Christ, you say, okay, I guess I need to let him extend a grace to him.
So where is he now? Is he repented of this, or is it just like, okay, I got away with it? I mean, where do you think he is?
Unfortunately, I would say he hasn't repented of it. He was just a few months ago. He was found stealing somebody else's things in another nearby village, and so despite our best efforts to extend grace and mercy, I think there is definitely an element of justice that is needed, and it reminds me of the scripture in, I believe, 1 Corinthians, that we're to love mercy and do justice.
Okay.
And so, how do we do justice and how do we love mercy? Because it seems to me like mercy and justice are conflicting at times. Right. And so the Lord has really taught me a lot through that situation, through the friendship, the now unfortunately broken friendship I have with him. I really pray that in the long term, in the long run, he will see God's hand working in his life through this situation. Yeah.
Okay. Well, that is great. So you were able to find forgiveness, and
but
that's pretty incredible, because I just know how hard it must have been for you to get to the point of having just the creature comforts, and then to just kind of have it wiped out.
Right. Yeah.
So it sounds like you're living more healthy now, and you've kind of got things where you can maintain your health. You've got your water. You've got the nominal things that you need to have a certain degree of comfort. I guess a question would be well, first of all, can you tell us how old you are?
I'm 22.
Okay, so you came here at 20 years old.
Yeah,
so
20 years old, exactly.
So you finished high school and you went.
Yeah, I joined a missionary training program through an organization called Pottersfield Ministries, and I spent 3 months in training in Guatemala, and then from there they choose a field location where to send you. And so out of 4 field locations, Uganda, Kenya, Guatemala, and Costa Rica were all options. And through the Lord's hand and really some miraculous things that changed situations, I ended up coming to Uganda.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So what, I know that you got a little training, like the simple overview in that time, but what on earth prepared you for the conditions under which you live here? Like growing up, did you camp? Were you an outdoorsman? I mean, it's just like, or did you just come over here just completely clueless and kind of learn the hard way?
A little bit of both. My family growing up, we didn't do a lot of camping. I think we camped twice my entire childhood, which is fine, maybe
You're
3 or 4
making up for
times.
it now.
Right, yeah, but which is fine, because, we had a big family, and, it wasn't real easy to do camping. A 6-man tent isn't an easy thing to set up, and, and so we didn't do a lot of camping, but I was quite outdoorsy. I grew up fishing. When I learned how to catch fish, I now wanted to eat the fish, so I had to learn how to clean fish. And so I learned how to, fillet a fish, and just some very basic, I wouldn't even call them outdoorsman skills, but, I wouldn't describe myself as a pretty boy, but I wouldn't describe myself as an outdoorsman either, as I grew up. Yeah.
But you've become an outdoorsman.
I have. In these last 2 years, I think there's only one life to live out here, and that's the life of an outdoorsman in a lot of ways.
Well, this is pretty incredible, because the thing that just strikes me is that I have never met a person that has so little as far as the resources you're working with, but you seem like maybe the happiest person I've ever seen. It's just like it's this disconnect with the American mindset of more, yet less and less fulfillment. And here you have about as close as you can come to nothing, but you seem like just a really happy person. Is this just a good day, or are you like are you just a happy person?
Today, I would describe myself as an optimist, as a happy person, and to give an overview of the last 2 years as I've lived here in Cabramaito, I would say they have been the hardest, most difficult years of my life, for sure. Which is a little bit strange, because I would also call these the best 2 years of my life. And so I have felt fulfilled in ways that I don't think are possible in America, at least in my life, in my calling, as God had called me to this place. I know that God had brought me here for a specific reason. To try to bring the gospel, to bring a very clear and plain gospel, simple gospel, to the village of Olumai and to the district of Cabramaito. And so in some ways I've been successful in that. In a lot of ways I've had a lot of difficulties and still have a long ways to go in bringing the gospel to them. But I know that that's what the Lord had called me as Ashton to. And so walking forward in that, even though that included malaria and typhoid and theft and heartbreak and friends betraying you, that was the race the Lord had me to run for these few years. And so it's been so difficult, but also so fulfilling, knowing that I'm doing what the Lord has called me to do.
Oh, wow. That is really great and inspirational. And to me, it just seems like you're living the adventure, that everyone in America is going to a movie and watching the adventure, and you're here living the adventure. I mean, it sounds like a life out of an Indiana Jones movie or something like that, that you're really living the adventure. Well, I think people would be shocked to know that a person can actually live on $30 a month. What advice would you have to people back in the United States? I think people, there's people in the United States concerned that things could turn in a bad direction in the United States, and what are they going to do? How are they going to live? How are they going to survive? What have you learned about, what advice would you give to people that want to know how can you get by on less in the United States?
That's a very difficult question. I'm not sure I know how to answer that. I think in the United States we call things needs, which are really wants. Like, for instance, a cell phone. A cell phone, really, this smartphone I have, I couldn't even call a need. I do need to be able to communicate, but I don't necessarily need to be able to get on Facebook and watch cat videos, right, or whatever else exists on the Facebook world, or those types of things. And so I think really just humbling ourselves and realizing, okay, if the Lord is calling me to something different, or if the Lord is taking me to a place of poverty inside America, we need to be able to trust Him with that, and as well as trusting Him with that, we need to accept what He provides for us, because it tells us in His Word that He'll provide our needs, but He might not necessarily provide our wants. He'll give us the desires of our heart, but the desires of our heart many times are very fleshly and even sometimes sinful things. And I don't think the Lord, being a loving God who wants us to know Him, will grant us those things. And so, trusting, I think we can all live on a lot less than we do. Even on $30 a month, I think I could survive on 20 if that's what happens. If the Lord provided $20 a month in funding for what I'm doing, I would trust the Lord and survive off of that, because the Lord would make it enough. And that might be malnourishment in some ways, that might be hardship, but it would be enough, I would say. Oh, wow. Well, it seems really clear that you grew up in a very special home, and it sounds like that you grew up with a very level head, and I don't know your parents, but I feel there was a lot of wisdom in your home, and then I think that you did not spurn that wisdom, and it's just like a really special thing that I'm seeing here. But like, if you went back to the United States, if you ever found yourself back in the United States, would your time in Africa affect how you lived once you were back in the United States? I think so. Just encountering poverty and putting faces. I think we've all seen videos of starving children and of hardship and of poverty, but having a face or knowing names that are in that exact situation that you might see in a movie or in a video or in a TV commercial, it changes your heart in a lot of ways. Not just in your behavior, because in some ways you do need to spend $30 on a lunch in America. In sometimes that is appropriate, but at the same time, knowing, having been exposed to what I've experienced in these years in Cabramaito, it would definitely affect my heart in how I view the resources that God blesses me with and how I need to steward them. Okay. So, well, let me ask this. I know that you are doing well with the resources that you have, and you're not asking for help. It's not like, oh, I need this, or oh, I need that. But I know also that you're ministering in the community. And if somebody wanted to help you minister to the people here, is there a way that they could help? Do you have like a PayPal, or is there some way that if somebody like said, well, I want to be a part of this, is there any way they could do that? There's not currently a system in place for that, and that's something I'm trying to develop and trying to work on. But basically, the support I receive comes, essentially is passed through my father, who's in America, who lives in the States, in Jacksonville, Florida. And so whether it's a check written from someone across the country who is friends with me on Facebook or something like that, or if it's just somebody who knew me growing up and said, wow, he's doing something crazy out there in Africa. Maybe 50 or 20 or $100 or whatever, you know, whatever gift the Lord puts on their heart to give, they're able to give that to my Father, and then through an ATM machine and several transactions, it's able to reach me.
So you're kind of like, you're here based on friends and family who
Right,
are
exactly.
wanting to support the ministry that you have.
Right.
Well, that is just really great. Is there anything that I haven't asked, or anything else that you think is important that you would like to tell people?
I don't think so. It's such an encouragement. You have a daughter who lives here in Uganda, and I'm so thankful to see you and your wife encouraging your daughter and spurring your daughter on to pursue what the Lord has called her to, even though at times that's worrisome, I'm sure, for you in your heart. I know for my parents it is. That can be worrisome, that can take you to your knees in prayer a lot of times. But, you know, I am so thankful for family and friends and for other believers, other Christian brothers and sisters who are able to spur me on and say, Ashton, what you're doing isn't wasting your time. What you're doing isn't meaningless. God does have a plan for your life, and He is using you to change people's hearts towards Him. And so I'm just so thankful even for the people watching this video who might just want to say, Ashton, amen, you're doing a great thing, or just even saying a prayer for me without me even knowing your face, your name. The Lord knows. Just saying a prayer for me. That encourages me and helps spur me on in so many ways that I can't even mention. I can't describe.
And how would people, would it be okay if people followed you on Facebook, or is there any presence there? I mean, how would they go about doing that?
I am on Facebook. I have a Facebook page. It's a secret page though, so it's not able to be searched. I might be able to change that if some people wanted to try to link up and get on there. But friend requesting me, I'm Ashton Nonis. There's a picture of me. I look just like this, and I have a little African boy on my shoulder. You can friend request me on Facebook. That's always welcome. I'm not posting a lot. You can see internet access is a little difficult to get. But I do try to send updates and you know, communications when I can, just to so people can know how to pray and know what my needs are.
Okay, well, this is great. So, like I say, I'd heard rumors that there was this legendary figure in Africa, this guy in Africa living in a tree. We found him, Ashton. We found out he's not living in the tree, that he crawls up the tree to get internet access, that he actually lives on the ground. But nonetheless, this is a pretty incredible story. So again, really appreciate you talking with me.
Yes.
And God bless, and
Yes,
we will be praying for you and hope the best for you. Okay, this is Paul McWhorter from ExtremePreppers.com, and I will be talking to you guys later.